and fresh from his victory in Monte Carlo, defending champion Sébastien Ogier led until the final stage of day one, when he buried his VW Polo in the snow. This didn't stop the Frenchman from being back in contention by the closing stages of the event, but it was his VW teammate Andreas Mikkelsen who had the lead, and all he needed to do was to be within 3 seconds of Ogier to take his first ever WRC win, but he crashed. Ogier was once again victor, taking maximum points and extending his lead at the top of the standings ahead of Hyundai's Thierry Neuville and a tearful Andreas Mikkelsen. Round 3 of the championship. This didn't stop the Frenchman from being back in contention by the closing stages of the event, but it was his VW teammate Andreas Mikkelsen who had the lead, and all he needed to do was to be within 3 seconds of Ogier to take his first ever WRC win, but he crashed. Ogier was once again victor, taking maximum points and extending his lead at the top of the standings ahead of Hyundai's Thierry Neuville and a tearful Andreas Mikkelsen. Round 3 of the championship. This didn't stop the Frenchman from being back in contention by the closing stages of the event, but it was his VW teammate Andreas Mikkelsen who had the lead, and all he needed to do was to be within 3 seconds of Ogier to take his first ever WRC win, but he crashed. Ogier to earn his 3rd straight win. That imperious start to the season gave the twice champion a 34-point lead over his nearest challenger. But the Frenchman proved he was fallible in Argentina when he crashed out on the first day, and in fact none of the dominant VWs made the podium. But that was just a blip. By round 9, Ogier had recorded 2 further wins and 2 runners-up spots. In Germany, he promised to win VW their first ever home event, and he delivered. Round 10 was in Australia, and Ogier arrived 93 points ahead of the pack, on the verge of becoming a triple world champion. In addition, his 6 wins and 2 from his teammate Jari-Matti Latvala had put Volkswagen in a position to secure their 3rd team title down under. Ogier was first on the road on day 1, acting as sweeper. Jari-Matti Latvala was Ogier's nearest standing rival and needed to outscore his teammate by 10 points to delay the Frenchman's coronation. So far he was ahead, but the defending champion was flying through the afternoon and moved into 3rd behind Chris Meek. The Briton couldn't hold off the pressure of the VWs for long, losing his lead to Ogier at the end of day 2. On the verge of becoming a triple world champion, Ogier clipped a bank, but that didn't change his course, Ogier taking a massive 2.5 seconds from his teammate. This set the scene for a showcase drive through the final stage, the power stage. Ogier and co-driver Julien Ingrazia claiming a 31st career win, an unassailable lead of 101 points, and a 3rd World Championship title. Volkswagen also claiming their 3rd successive manufacturer's world title.
Time now to revisit some of the social highlights of the year.
Usain Bolt kicked September off on the right foot. Eventually, following victories at the World Championships, the 6-time Olympic gold medalist took part in the Dizzy Goals Challenge and managed to put one in the back of the net. Andy Murray received the animation treatment during the US Open in August, while surfer Jamie O'Brien was literally on fire, lighting up the internet in the process. Chelsea's 12-year-old prodigy Ben Elliott tricked his way through October as he nutmegged his seniors. Odell Beckham Jr. showed off his dance moves before an autumn grudge match against division rivals the Dallas Cowboys. Football icon Diego Maradona celebrated with Los Pumas in the changing rooms during Argentina's successful 4th-place Rugby World Cup campaign. And finally, 4-time NBA MVP LeBron James paid tribute to Prince at the Cleveland Cavaliers' Halloween festivities.
Finally, we're in the United Arab Emirates for a rerun of the world's richest horse race.
The $10 million Dubai World Cup attracted an elite international field to Meydan Racecourse. Godolphin's defending champion African Story returned to face the best from Japan, Hoko Taramai, and Japan Cup winner Epiphania, while American hopes rested on Kentucky Derby winner and favourite California Chrome.
The signals are given. Starter at the button. Gates are back, racing in the Dubai World Cup. Candy Boy and Epiphania slow to move. Hoko Taramai came out quickly. African Story fast away. Lee is third. California Chrome going to fourth on the outside of Long River. 2 lengths away, Epiphania, 1 to Side Glance. Candy Boy is second last, and Prince Bishop being hustled in the early part and dropped out to the rear as the Cup field makes the turn to the back with 1,500 metres left to go. And Japan's Hoko Taramai leads by 3/4 of a length. African Story second, Long River 3/4 of a length away third. Ahead to California Chrome, he's 4 deep into the back past the 1,300 metres mark. Lee on the fence, 3/4 of a length to Epiphania, 1 to Side Glance on the inside of Candy Boy, and 2.5 lengths to Prince Bishop. 400 metres in 25.6, 800 metres in 49.4, and down the back of the track, Hoko Taramai by 3/4 of a length to African Story. California Chrome's a length away. He's third, but he's travelled wide from the word go. Lee is fourth. Long River under pressure. Prince Bishop's making ground. He's running on from the back. Then Candy Boy, Epiphania and Side Glance had dropped out to the rear. Hoko Taramai, a half length in front of African Story. California Chrome has loomed up 3 deep. Lee behind them. Prince Bishop is deep around as they turn the corner. Hoko Taramai in front of California Chrome and Prince Bishop on the outside. Lee's into the clear. He'll have to give them 2 lengths. Prince Bishop in front with 250 metres left to go. Prince Bishop's got away from California Chrome. Then Hoko Taramai and Lee, but it's the Prince Bishop and William Buick. Prince Bishop is clear, and Prince Bishop wins the 20th Dubai World Cup.
Victory for William Buick and trainer Saeed bin Surur as unfancied Prince Bishop came from the back of the field to win in style.
Next week, we're walking the high rope as we go slacklining. And we're talking precision angles needed for skate park design. We'll see you next time on Gillette World Sport.
I'm pursuing a new PB.
I'm pursuing the next climb.
I'm pursuing wide open spaces.
Whatever you're pursuing, join Sport Pursuit today and get up to 70% off top sports and outdoor brands. SportPursuit.com.
It's my first game. Got any tips?
Tips? Yeah. Check out this great offer.
Get your mobile out.
I'm having that. Got any more?
Yeah. Check your duck speed.
Duck speed.
Download the Coral app and check out our great offers.
Please bet responsibly.
You smell that? What is that?
What?
What's that smell?
The cologne?
No, money. I smell money.
Okay.
The Big Short has been nominated for 4 Golden Globe Awards, including Best Actor Christian Bale, Best Actor Steve Carell, and Best Picture of the Year.
I'm jacked! I'm jacked to the tats!
Good.
It's stupendously funny and hugely entertaining.
You guys said you wanted to get rich. Kind of brilliant.
The Big Short.
It's another pure gray.
Cologne?
No, money. I smell money.
Okay.
The Big Short has been nominated for 4 Golden Globe Awards, including Best Actor Christian Bale, Best Actor Steve Carell, and Best Picture of the Year.
Object! Object to the test!
Good. It's stupendously funny and hugely entertaining.
You guys said you wanted to get rich. Kind of brilliant.
The Big Short.
Come on, it's another pure grave.
Come on. No money. There's no money. Okay.
The Big Short has been nominated for 4 Golden Globe Awards, including Best Actor Christian Bale, Best Actor Steve Carell, and Best Picture of the Year.
In this moment, I want it loud. We must run and fight and boom.
Catch the Symphony of Liverpool versus Arsenal.
January 13th, live on BT Sport.
Live Ladbrokes Premiership action coming up as St Johnstone tackle Aberdeen at midday. BT Sport 2 is the place to find Fletch and Sav on Saturday. They'll have all the big stories from 10 ahead of Wycombe Wanderers against Villa in the FA Cup third round from midday.
This programme is sponsored by Bet365.
Happy New Year to you from the Hunter on a rather grey, damp afternoon, and where most locals are hoping 2016 will bring a little more sporting cheer than 2015, a year in which the city's 2 major franchises both won the wooden spoon. And after a strong start, the Jets are starting to get that sinking feeling once again. An 8-game winless streak and a goal drought that goes back over 6 hours. The good news, Melbourne victory normally only leave here with a thanks for coming and a half-time cup of tea. But Kevin Muscat's team are equally in need of 3 points today after their best ever calendar year ended on a run of 5 without success. So an intriguing afternoon ahead as we move to the halfway point of the season. And even after that long winless run, the Jets could be back in the top 6 if they can inflict further damage on Victory's faltering campaign tonight. While the champions, Andy Harper, fast in danger, are becoming somewhat marooned in mid-table.
Remarkable. A remarkable scenario that you've just outlined. Lee Broxham leads the team out today to make sure that Newcastle, by the close of play, aren't 1 point behind them and nipping at their heels. Remarkable.
Well, Hunter Stadium has hardly been a fortress for the Jets. They won just 1 match out of 14 here in 2015, but as I'm sure you remember, that was against Melbourne Victory in October, and there is just something about Newcastle that seems to spook the Victory. Let's see if the ghosts of the past are about to strike again. Few late New Year's fireworks in the far stand. Decent gallery on hand. Let's hope we get a contest to match. Let's remind you the team news, starting with the Jets. Just one change to this 11, enforced, of course, with David Carney's suspension ruling him out. It means a bit of a rejig with Jason Hoffman returning from his own ban at right back and Cameron Watson shifting into midfield. Ryan Kitto starts on the right. Scott Miller gives Nick Cowburn the job of keeping tabs on Costa Barbarouses. Still no Leonardo. The Brazilian remains troubled by that knee injury. One change for the Victory as well. Archie Thompson is selected for his first start of the season as Kevin Muscat tries to find the right blend in his misfiring front four. Fahid Ben Kalfalar will switch inside to play in the number 10 role, with Guy Finkler still not fit. Jesse Macaronis the odd man out. Thomas Deng gets another chance to impress in defence before he disappears on Olyrood duty. The Jets' 4 outfield subs have an average age of just 20, and the Victory replacements are only marginally their senior and include the fit again Rashid Mahazi. Well, Scott Miller reportedly chasing 3 players in the January transfer window. Former striker Adam Taggart, at least one of the names in the mix, and Miller, of course, does have some decent contacts at Taggart's parent club, Fulham. Kevin Muscat will need reinforcements as well, with 5 of his Olyroos set to head to Qatar following today's game. He has already made 1 signing, Hume City's Jai Ingham. His FFA Cup exploit against Victory, earning him a move to the reigning champions. On a weekend when referees have been under the microscope again, our man today in the middle is Jared Gillett, closing in on a century of A-League games. Ryan Gallagher and Scott Edeling run the lines. Trent Nash is the 4th official. Well, could this be a key battle today? Nigel Bogard up against Besart Berisha. Bogard has played the Albanian pretty well in their past meetings. His team's allowing Berisha just 4 goals in 11 games when Bogard is in the back line. As for Berisha, in total he has just 3 goals in 11 appearances against the Jets. That's his worst return by quite some distance against any A-League club.
3, 2, 1.
False start. Archie Thompson breaking the line. And now we're underway. Victory kicking from left to right in the first half in the all-white strip. 2 teams badly out of form, needing a lift in their fortunes. Who do you fancy might get the job done today, Andy?
Well, I don't know if Melbourne Victory have been out of form. They've been out of results, so let that be the answer. I think Victory, if on form, if it goes on form, should win the match. They've got too many good players against a Newcastle team whose depth has really been tested. And on that discussion, Simon, Melbourne Victory's run into this match 1 point in 5 games. The last one this game before they lose 5 players to the Olyroos. They haven't got a lot of fat on the bone, the Victory, at the moment.
Jai Ingham, as we say, the only incoming player for the time being, but again, the jungle drums are beating with regards to both Alex Wilkinson and potentially James Troisi. Troisi, of course, interesting some other clubs as well. There's Cameron Watson. Nigel Bogart. And Alividic. Back with Daniel Mullen, now restored to the Jets' back line following his injury problems. You might remember he had a short loan spell with Melbourne Victory back in 2013. Played 9 games for the Victory. Here's Alividic, who's starting on the right-hand side of the Jets' attack today. Normally features on the left. He does cross in with his left foot, and it was Trifunovic who got the header on target, easily gathered by Vukovic.
Dave Carney said in the pre-game show, Trifunovic needs service into the penalty area, and if that service comes above shoulder height, he's more than likely to win it. We just got a little snap of that there. No trouble for Vukovic. A welcome start to the match for Trifunovic, and a good cross from Alividic.
Steadied behind by Berisha beautifully, and Thompson's on the far post. If Barbarouses can pick him out, oh, it was like pinball in there. Finally off Thompson onto the post. The whistle has gone anyway.
The handball on Archie. Remarkable. Calburn beaten for pace. Line ball for offside. It wasn't called offside, I don't think. Although it must have been, because there was no hand there.
Didn't look like a hand, did it? But I'm with you, Hobbs. I didn't see a flag.
Anyway, it's against Archie. Take your pick. Handball, offside. A little portal, perhaps, to the game's future. Barbarouses versus Calburn.
Here's Berisha, scoring his last 2 matches. Fahid Ben Kalfala, and it's pushed away by Birighitti. Kalfala in that more central role this afternoon. Testing the goalkeeper.
Good side on goal. Worryingly for Newcastle so early. Birighitti inside a minute, forced to some pretty tidy work.
One off his own player. Here's the first corner, whipped in by Bozanic. Barbarosa's challenging for it. Kitto trying to move it up towards halfway, but Victory have it back through Bozanic here. Sidesteps the challenge of Kitto. Calfella outside him. Faced by Cowburn. Well broken down by Nick Cowburn, who continues to fill in at that left fullback role. The throw-in's gone against the Jets, which hasn't best pleased either their players or their fans. Kantarowski, high foot on Georgievski. The free kick has gone Victory's way for the infringement that came a fraction of a second beforehand.
Yeah, desperation for Newcastle already. The ball was pinged into Kantarowski from Dan Mullen. Kantarowski was surrounded by at least 3 Victory players.
Set-piece specialist Keith Finkler, of course, still on the absentee list. So Bozanic and Calfella are going to sort it out between them. It's almost dead straight. Bozanic will tee it up. Well, not quite sure what that was all about. I don't think Broxham was expecting it. Maybe just slightly overcooked by Bozanic. Did he intend that for Calfella?
That's the way I read it.
If it was very poorly executed.
Complete breakdown in communication.
Calfella, top of the Newcastle Jets penalty area. And then Broxham, steadied down by Hoffman, and this is a Leverage. Now Kantarowski, who's got a lot more creative responsibility, you'd imagine, this afternoon in the absence of Leonardo again. He just doesn't seem to be able to string 2 or 3 games together.
No, so he got nailed in that game here. Was it against the Central Coast Mariners? And he's not been right since. I think the league's missed him, even as much as the Jets specifically.
Archie Thompson bearing it on goal. Another save made by Mark Birighitti. 3 times now the Jets custodian called into action. 2 from long range, 1 off his own defender. Jets struggling to retain possession of the ball. This is Georgievski. Heard David Carney on the pre-game show saying it's vital they remain compact. Certainly that at the moment. Let's see if the Victory can find a way through. Breaks for Bozanic. Now Barbarouses. And off Cowburn for a corner.
1-1 in the Cowburn-Barbarouses standoff. Nice defending by the youngster. Barbarouses has seen the back of Cowburn once already, and you just fancy him in that duel. Settled possession when he's dribbling at the defender. It's going to be a long afternoon for Nick Cowburn, but he did very well on that occasion.
Victory with all the possession. Can they convert that into an opening goal? Bozanic. Guerrier finds Barbarouses beautifully with the angle ball. Maybe caught between 2 minds, the Kiwi. Eventually opted for the shots. Easy pickings for Birighitti.
Almost had too much time, didn't he, Simon? And you receive the ball inside the opponent's penalty area, and the opponents haven't moved out en masse from the set piece which preceded it, and you've got time to look up. Worrying for Newcastle. Greater intensity required. It's all very well to talk about being compact. You've still got to actually work with some intensity.
Georgievski sent a little wider than he would have liked by Bozanic. Back with Thompson. Good to see him starting again for Melbourne Victory after that horrible knee injury in the FFA Cup. We thought at one stage might cost Archie Thompson his career. Here he is, 37 years young. Benjamin Button, as he calls himself. And he's been checked off the ball, but Jared Gillett's happy to let that one go. Broxham. Barbarouses and Guerrier trying to get in behind the fullback. Goal kick. And a very positive start made by the reigning champions.
Yeah, it has. It's been pretty much like a Thursday training session, attack versus defence. See now that Newcastle have been able to weather that storm, restart the game themselves, what they have in mind.
Leibniz beaten to it by Delpierre, and Victory are back on the attack again. Turned around the corner by Berisha, and he was then upended. Another free kick for the Victory. And these are worrying signs for the Newcastle Jets. Almost an eerie silence around Hunter Stadium. You'd hope from a Jets point of view it's not an air of resignation among the home faithful. They've seen their team have to do plenty of defending in these opening 10 minutes, and a bit more to do here. Delpierre, Broxham waiting on the edge of the box to attack this free kick from Bozanic, and it was Delpierre who reached it first. Birighitti together. Mathieu Delpierre at fault for Perth Glory's equaliser in the last round, giving away that penalty with the rather sluggish challenge on Josh Risdon late on.
It's a better little sequence from Newcastle. They backed themselves. Birighitti trusted Calburn, so he threw him the ball. Calburn very effectively headed the ball onto Kitto, secured possession around halfway, actually had a fraction of an opportunity to get around Jason Guerrier, didn't take it. But they're the little building blocks that Newcastle need to ensure become more rather than less.
Jets' last A-League success was that remarkable come-from-behind win over Melbourne City the back end of October. Since when they've been something of a slippery slope down the A-League ladder. And yet, aside of that game against Melbourne City here at Hunter Stadium a few weeks back, and they've not really been outclassed in terms of the final score lines anyway.
No, true. Look, there's a definite steal about them.
Now Berisha will turn it towards Thompson. Beautiful first touch and release. Thompson got slightly caught between his feet. Back for Kalfala, directing traffic. You'd fancy that Fahid Ben Kalfala would enjoy that added responsibility of playing as the number 10.
Yeah, and in a game like today as well, where the early evidence is that Newcastle are going to concede at least half the pitch, so he can just work a couple of little shuttles, little angled runs, starting on defenders and then into space like that.
Flag up against Barbarouses. He's going through a little mini goal drought himself, the Kiwi. No goals in his last 7. Really outside of Bessar Berisha, who continues to provide the goals for Victory. There's 1 or 2 who were due, Kalfala included.
Well, certainly after his miss last week, but his form in the last 3 games has been a very welcome return. Such an exciting contributor last year to the success, and a bit flat to open the campaign this time round, but I think we're all happy to report his form in the last couple of weeks, much more like it from the Tunisian.
This is Alividic. Punted forward by Bogart. Came off Broxham last for a throw. Lee Broxham continuing to deputise as captain for the victory in the absence of Carl Valeri. They are awaiting news on January the 18th, we're told, as to whether he can resume training with the group. Let's hope the results are positive. Meantime, plenty forward for this set piece for the Jets, but it's not the greatest delivery by Nick Cowburn. Hoffman with the flick on forward. Zana clattered into by Cameron Watson, free kick. That's clumsy really by Watson.
Well, that's the word I was going to use, Simon.
Well, I stole it.
Well, it's a free market. I don't think it summed it up perfectly.
Birighitti showing that all goalkeepers really want to be outfield players. Coolly done.
Ryan Kitto just not in the game at the moment for Newcastle. Young guy, came here from Adelaide. Beautiful cool work from Birighitti. What a super season he's having. And then he looked to hit the diagonal ball for Kitto, who's reacting, and reacting slowly at the moment, Simon. It's one thing to try and play off your opponent and react in that sense.
Well, now Cameron Watson's going to be in trouble here. Yep, yellow card.
No, that was a clatter, more than clumsy.
They got away with the first one, but never likely to from that one. Goodness me, that's right around the hip area.
It's cheap. It's almost lazy. That's what that is. If there was somewhere between a yellow and a red, that was it.
Third booking of the season for the former Adelaide United midfielder. He perhaps feels as though he always has to put in a bit extra against the Melbourne team. He was born in that particular city. Down the line by Guerrier, all a bit tight for Barbarouses. Does well to dig it out and get it back to the fullback. Now Broxham. Goodness me, needs to be an Olympic sprinter to get to that one.
Costa Bolt, he isn't.
He'd be one of the imports you'd imagine would get the nod for the Asian Champions League, Barbarouses.
Well,
we still count New Zealanders as imports.
Apparently, yeah. Apparently. Although there is provision in the Constitution for New Zealand to become part of the Commonwealth.
Don't you start.
Well, I didn't write the thing. You'd imagine so. He's been Victory's best player on a consistency basis, but arguably on the flanks is where Melbourne Victory have the greatest depth. So I think it all depends on Delpierre, whether they can find a replacement for him.
Agreed. That's a nice turn, by the way, by Georgievski. Unfortunately for him, he's hit the back of his own player, Archie Thompson. That was Delpierre. And then Kitto looking to link up with Kantarovski. There's a break on here for the Jets. Alividic on the right, Trifunovic wants it far post. Instead they go short for Kitto, and then a slip by Kantarovski as he looked to profit from the rebound. Guerrier's remained down on the turf. Alividic's cross is too deep, and there's a bit of a flashpoint between Trifunovic and Broxham, with Broxham believing that the Serbian went down far too easily with the contact.
Well, they're not going to get many chances. They've just got to be more convincing when they get them. If that's how they're setting up, to absorb pressure, save energy, not open the game, and pounce when we get the chance, well, they had the chance, they just didn't look like pouncing, and the ultimate cross from Alividic was woeful.
As David Carney says, that's what Trifunovic needs, service.
Fair enough. But isn't that one worth chasing down? I mean, that was in the middle of no Victory player in particular. He was as far away from the ball as anyone in white.
Kantarovski's trying to chase Thomas Deng here.
And you see, you put a little bit of pressure on Victory and you get some field position.
Only briefly. Foul on Cal Fowler has seen to that. Quick release by Bozanic. Thompson bundled off the ball fairly, in the opinion of Jared Gillett, and this is Alividic again. Well, Trifunovic just stopped. He wasn't anticipating that at all. Miscommunication between the two Serbians. Header by Mullen. Nudge in the back by Del Pierre.
And that was clever.
Made the most of it, didn't he, Trifunovic? But there was some contact.
Yeah, no problem with that at all. That's clever play. Well, these are Newcastle's moments. This is what they set up for. Their last counter-attack, which opened up some promise, delivered nothing ultimately. Danny Vukovic untroubled. But set pieces such as this is where Newcastle have to really cause some trouble.
Well, I haven't scored the Jets in 6 hours and 39 minutes of A-League football. No wonder the locals are just a little abuzz with the prospect of an attack on the victory goal. Well, that should be Danny Vukovic's, and is. Nigel Bogart penalised. Danny Vukovic is saying, let's play on. Interesting to read comments by Vukovic this week, admitting that he's not really hit top form since his off-season switch from Perth Glory. Oh, Gary left a bit in that on Kantarovski, and Jared Gillett just waited for a moment.
Interesting. Just as a discussion point, if the Jets are setting up for free kicks, Ben Kantarovski wins it, stay down. You know, and the frustration will build on your opponents if you're smart about it from the Newcastle viewpoint.
Talking of which, Fahed Ben Kalfala has gone into the notebook. Or failing to retreat quickly enough. Fired up the Tunisian. An important afternoon this for both clubs. Averaging a foul almost every 2 minutes. See if they can get the delivery right this time. Nick Cowburn again from this side. Better shape to it this time. And it'll drop for Alividic. The fast stick was Kantarovski. This is Jason Hoffman. And Daniel Mullen was just backpedaling and slightly off balance.
Just not quite the final pass that was required, but a good little bit of pressure built by Newcastle. The home fans prepared to get behind that sort of effort and endeavour.
Now this is that earlier incident between Trifunovic and Broxham. Handbags? Or not?
A little more.
Meantime, Alividic swinging another one in, this time deeper for Kitto.
Well, I think Alividic is entitled to make more of those crossing situations. He's under no pressure whatsoever.
Kantarovski found the space well, but not the cross, which was scooped away by Deng. Set up again by Polyak, but too heavy off the foot of Kantarovski this time. He's played in that number 10 role before, particularly that second half against Melbourne City, the Jets' last win back in October. He was pretty good that night.
Well, he's technically their most capable player, Ben Kantarovski, so he's the obvious one to go into that position. But they miss him as the outlet pass when he plays as the defensive midfielder or the number 6. It's up to Polyak and Cameron Watson to fill that void if they're capable.
Lee Broxham running out of pitch. Cowburn. It's not a bad release, but Guerrio's quick and strong, and he's got a nudge by Kitto.
That's silly. That's too late to be annoyed with yourself. And he had a 20-metre chase and race to work out in his mind what he's going to do. That's sloppy, ill-disciplined, irritating for a coach. It's not as though it's just happened. You've been running there for 30 metres. Surely the computer chip is processing something.
Maybe he's just assuming that Guerrio was quicker than him. There's a bit of room for Enver Lividic. Looking for the option, and one of those is Trifunovic, who crosses on the turn. It's dealt with by Broxham. Corner for the Jets.
Decent from Newcastle. Lividic is the man who's in most possession when Newcastle hit the final third. And he put, finally, a support player through into a dangerous position. Promising little spell this for Newcastle. Melbourne victory not out of their half for at least the last 5 minutes.
Well, they've earned their first corner. No David Carney to swing in those left-footed teasing crosses, so it's Kitto instead. Met at the near post by Berisha. Thompson. Barbarouses just slightly deceived by the way the ball held up on the bounce, which allowed Nick Cowburn time to recover.
It's beautiful work from Archie Thompson. Newcastle out-possessing. Not a stat we would have expected to emerge really at any point during the game, but they've had a good last 5 minutes, the Jets.
They do have a remarkable record of success, of course, against Melbourne Victory. Victory with just 2 wins in 15 visits. It is their worst away trip by some distance in the Hyundai A-League. Of course, they were beaten here 1-0. David Carney howitzer back in round 3. Newcastle's only home win of the campaign so far. And in fact, their only home win of 2015, which is unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Watch that back foot as well, Jordan.
All the talk that clubs and players around the league make about their home ground being their fortress, Sandcastle's more like.
But all too easily kicked over, it seems.
Well, that said, it's been a difficult one for the Victory to kick over in the last half dozen years. It started brightly here today. The game's levelled out most certainly in the last 5 to 10 minutes.
Archie Thompson looking to change all that, turning this way and that to get rid of Hoffman. Barbarouses waiting for any error from Cowburn. Young fullback taking no chances. You can hear the Victory fans in the background. There's a fair few of them. Made the journey north. There they are, or at least some of them. They're about to watch Ollie Bozanic deliver their team's latest corner. Birighitti getting good distance on the punch. Guerrier to return it. Del Piero can't reach it, but it drops kindly for the Frenchman. Now with Bozanic. Good tail on the cross, and Thompson going for it. Beaten in the air by Nigel Bogard. This is Bessart Berisha, and it's out by Kantarowski.
Excellent individual defending from Newcastle. Cowburn's initial cool header to concede the corner was good. Bogard's aerial challenge on Thompson was outstanding. And then Kantarowski just nipping in to deny Berisha. Superb.
Kalfala. Cowburn again. Very coolly done. That's terrific play by the youngster, who's still supplementing his wage as a youth team player by working as a teaching aide. Oh, a little how'd you do on Barbarouses by Birighitti.
Well, this will set the stato going. I'm sure he's already calibrated this one, but how often in senior club football have two teammates played together when their fathers did the same thing a generation before? Bogard and Calburn, KB United. Famous names in the Hunter Valley, Bogard and Calburn, and now the two of them supporting each other, defending Newcastle's cause and name in the A-League.
That's our Berisha offside. Here in Trifunovic, along with Federico Pio Vicari, prior to this round of games, led the league in that particular stat. The Albanian flagged again. Broxham. Barbarouses with Polyak snapping at his heels, given away though by Kitto. And now Georgievski with some room for manoeuvre. And still going, Daniel Georgievski. Well, he was looking to curl it top corner. He's done that once or twice during his A-League career. Just didn't get the purchase required to bend it over the top of Birighitti. Kantarovski unable to take the ball under his control. It's been a decent response, though, by the Jets after that early pressure from the champions.
Yeah, look, they're looking very good across the back four, Simon. All the defenders acquitting themselves excellently. Need to do more in possession as a team.
Here's Hoffman. Looking to hit Trifunovic early, but never looked likely to find its way through.
No, and they've got to make more of those crossing situations when they eventuate. The Melbourne Victory have had plenty of good sights at goal. Daniel Georgievski, the latest, with a really positive run towards the penalty area. It's more like it. The shot was a bit of a powder puff.
Ball stayed in play. Bogard. Laid off by Kantarovski, and then down the line by Calburn. And into touch off Deng. Bogart. It's knocked off balance by Berisha, and now knocked off the ball, and Victory can counter. Barbarouses, Thompson is on the far post. He's got that horribly wrong, Costa Barbarouses, but you could see his intent. Mark Birighitti with those 3 early saves. He's made 4 in total now. Just the one for Danny Vukovic. Bogart. It's knocked off balance by Berisha, and now knocked off the ball, and Victory can counter. Barbarouses, Thompson is on the far post. Kantarovski and Broxham contesting the ball. Broxham won it. Horribly wrong, Costa Barbarouses. A little late on Kitto. Jared Gillett well positioned. Happy to let it ride. This is Calburn. Watson. Levitic, clever. Little 1-2 with Trifunovic. Oh, and the return was behind the number 9 for Newcastle. Otherwise, that would have been a glorious move for the Jets.
Fans are rejoicing. A spark at last. Wonderfully creative.
Feeling like scary of the rock, but I think now
just on that talk of Milos Trifunovic, not really getting involved in the link-up play and needing the service. His stats are rather remarkable. 9 shots on target on goal in 11 matches, and yet he scored 4 of them. So he doesn't do a lot else but score.
Yeah, well, you know, if you're in Real Madrid, that's fine.
Or if you're Gerd Muller.
If you're Gerd Muller. He played for a decent team, as I recall, as well. Oh, there's no question about his technical ability, and certainly inside the penalty area. But I think the way Newcastle are staffed, and as a result of that, the way they play, he has to do more off the ball. This is not, oh, would you mind? It's a you must. I said in the pre-game show anyway, if it's good enough for Bessart Berisha, it's good enough for me.
Whoopsie-daisy. Always playing to the gallery, Archie Thompson. Home fans or away fans, doesn't matter. I wonder if Bessart Berisha would have smiled. He's on the ball now, and he's found Costa Barbarouses with a raking crossfield ball, and Barbarouses around the fullback, trying to tee up a tap-in for Berisha, who was then late on his opponent. I think it was a genuine attempt to go for the ball. Nigel Bogard is having the conversation with him. I think it's a little bit more... with him. I think it's a little bit more to the point than that. The replay will be interesting.
Well, nice work from Barbarouses. It's very, very late.
Yeah, it is.
Barbarouses does well. He was caught late too, if we're talking about it. A rolled ankle from Daniel Mullen, just back from knee surgery himself. He rolled the dice, Barbarouses. It worked.
Well, at first glance, it looks as though it's an attempt to play at the ball. I'm sure he would argue it was, but he very clearly caught the man. And he's left Daniel Mullen in some pain. Berisha in the book.
Well, they're still pointing at each other.
There might be some afters to come in this. We'll have to keep an eye on this one. Between Bogard, who wasn't the recipient of the challenge, but he was first to have the conversation. Trouble brewing, perhaps.
Well, I'll suffice to say that it's just as well that Bessart is playing against Nigel and not Michael Bogard.
Yes, he was a rugged defender, so I'm told, even more so than Nigel.
Any more than one touch was a waste.
Nigel is the man who's got 7 red cards during his A-League career, which apparently his dad gives him a bit of stick for. The response, apparently, you got away with more in your day, Dad.
He's no shrinking violet, Nige, but let's say that evolution has kicked in from one generation to the next.
I'll take it you're friends with Michael Bogard.
No, he's a great man, the Walrus. Out of a great footballing culture, that KB team, the talent pool from which they drew, including Nick's dad, Brett. Spawned the Tredinics and Craig Johnston. Speaking of whom, the Liverpool legends on Thursday night. How good's Robbie Slater going to go, Simon?
I reckon he'll go all right. He's certainly fit enough, puts enough hours in the gym.
How many 4 figures? How many times has he hit 4 figures on the sit-ups in the last weeks?
Angled in by Bogard, but Kitto couldn't control it. Mullen, thankfully none the worse for wear after that challenge by Berisha, who's on the ball now, and a good situation brewing perhaps for the victory. Berisha getting the boos, he won't mind that. The Jets have broken it down in midfield, and now a counter is on for the home team potentially. Watson, and he couldn't steer it in behind Garriott, who had front position on Kitto. That's coolly done by Vukovic as well.
Well, the risk of repeating myself. Now, that was a little hustle from Trifunovic to close down Garriott. He got a touch on the ball, which brought a teammate into play upfield, and the Jets have won possession back. They're the little incremental advantages you win for yourself by that little burst of energy.
Loose by Kantarowski, but he's retrieved the situation. Watson Good first-time ball for Kantarovski, and Newcastle starting to stroke the ball around a bit, and the home gallery appreciating that. Bit of room for Hoffman to advance into, now with a Leverdic. Needs a better cross than that, though, dealt with by Broxham. And Kalfala will thump it in the vague direction of Barbarouses, and not bad skill by Scott Miller either to kill the ball on the touchline. Bozanic. Now Georgievski. Nobody's gone with the victory fullback. It's a poor release. Straight at Daniel Mullen. Now Kitto. Kantarovski. That's a better ball by Kantarovski. Here's Leverdic popping up on his more familiar left flank and trying to hit it in towards Trifunovic, and that was good scrambling back by Georgievski. Holds it up for the moment. Poljac's cross, and there was Trifunovic. And it drops on the roof of the net, but better again by the Jets.
Very good. Kantarovski at the centre of most things they're doing well. Releasing play out of midfield. Trifunovic, this would be an interesting one on replay. Backing into Del Pierre, the cross comes in. Geez, I would have backed him to have done better with that sort of service. Del Pierre read him well. There was an arm draped over the shoulder of Trifunovic, who looks quizzically at the ref, nothing more than that. They've certainly established a foothold in their game, Newcastle. It was looking like perhaps a long afternoon in front of them, the opening 10 or 15 minutes.
Well, sometimes you do look at those situations that happen in the danger zones, the penalty areas, when there are arms draped across or contact between attacker and defender. Sometimes wonder whether if it was anywhere else in the pitch, the whistle would go.
Yeah, Simon, I think this is a discussion the game needs to have very openly and broadly. Always on the periphery, let's change the offside rule, let's do this and that. What about we enforce the rules that we have? And I can't see a reason why the A-League can't be at the vanguard of that.
Well, we've broken new ground with the referee interviews.
Handled himself very well, I thought. Yeah. Ben Williams, in a difficult set of circumstances. There's not many professions where people have to stare down, unless you're a politician, stare down a camera and say, I got it wrong.
Or a coach.
Or a coach.
Bit of space for Cameron Watson here, wants some help. Kantarovski obliging. Shadowed by Broxham. Cowburn. They're heading the wrong direction, Newcastle. All the way back to Birighitti. Flag up against the Leverdic.
So let's take a look at that again, Simon, just for the sake of the discussion. Del Pierre, I mean, you know, they've got enough of an advantage, defenders. Is that legal?
Probably
now,
not.
Given the context of modern football, of course, you know, that's play on. No one's going to complain, but it's within the game's capacity to draw a line in the sand, like they did with kicking the ball away after a foul was given. We're not accepting that anymore.
Leverdic trying to lift it over the top of Broxham. And the counter is very much on here now for Melbourne victory. Look at the space for Kalfala. Perhaps need a little more zip on the release for Barbarouses. He's on his way now. Oh, not the cross that Kevin Muscat or the Melbourne victory players required.
Poor from Barbarouses. Normally so good.
Cowburn, Trifunovic, Kantarovski, and Kitto. It's cleverly done by Kitto because he didn't have a lot of room for manoeuvre. And Del Pierre matched Trifunovic stride for stride. Zanuck trying to hit it behind Coburn, who by and large has done reasonably well up against Costa Barbarouses.
Doing very, very well. You've got to remember, with someone like Nick Coburn up against one of the league's best wingers, he wasn't even guaranteed a contract at the start of the season, and as you report, he's still on a what's the terminology? A part-time youth
team deal, really.
You know, it's
and he's not a natural left fullback either.
No, he's not. He's a central defender. That's his stock and trade. Lachlan Jackson sitting on the bench today. He's made great strides. You talk to the people at the Newcastle Football Club, and you know, Nick Coburn is one of the youngsters who's actually put his name on the sheet. There's a couple of others in the squad who could take a leaf out of his book.
Floodlights on now on a rather grey, rather drab afternoon in the Hunter. The game has certainly not been drab. A few chances for both teams. For the time being, the goal drought goes on for the Jets. Remember, it's just one from open play in the last 5 for victory as well. Not exactly flush in that regard themselves. The gap between victory in 5th and Sydney and Melbourne City in joint 3rd is 4 points.
And then it's a further 6 to the top 2.
So they've got to get a shift on, really, the champions. Everybody expects them to be up near the top.
It was only a couple of weeks ago, wasn't it? We were talking about the table splitting in 2. Well, now it's splitting in 3.
Into 1 additional minute. Watson dispossesses Barbarouses. Now Jason Hoffman being urged forward, but Thompson's ensured that he makes no progress.
Yeah, those little phases of play there for Jason Hoffman. I'm not convinced that he fully appreciates the athletic advantage he has, certainly from time to time. And as that one was slung over to him, he took the ball in his stride beautifully. It was he versus Archie Thompson. No one behind Archie. Acres of space. And Hoffman elected for the conservative approach.
Well, there we go. A really interesting first half. Milos Trifunovic has had a couple of opportunities and maybe a shout for a penalty as well for the Newcastle Jets after a bright start by Melbourne victory, in which they forced Mark Birighitti to make 3 saves. All to play for then at the break here in the Hunter. It is goalless. Newcastle Jets 0, Melbourne victory 0. Let's join Glenn Lauder.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. With Jason Hoffman. Jason, you obviously had to withstand a lot of pressure in the first few minutes. Happy with the way you guys came back into it?
Yeah, definitely. I think, you know, we've tried to keep it compact, try and force victory into playing, you know, wide and not being able to play through the middle and keep Bessart quite quiet. I think we did that well after a slow start, and hopefully we improved in the second half.
Looks like you're keeping a pretty high line as well, really trying to, you know, suffocate them in the middle.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, try and keep the field compact, force them long. We've got pace at the back, you know, we can run it down. So as long as they can't play through the middle and, you know, overloading the midfield, we'll be quite happy.
Thanks, Jason.
Thank you.
Scoreless it is at the break here at Hunter Stadium. Richard Bayless and Matt Thompson with all the first half highlights on the other side of this break.
Wednesday.
This program is sponsored by Bet365.
Well, it's that time of year. Great time for football. Goals, goals, goals. That's a stunner. What a goal. Manchester United are ahead. Once again, it's dramatic. Oh, boy. An absolute screamer. Sanchez. What a finish. Arsenal rubbing it in now.
Real people, real hair loss, real stories.
When I first had a full head of hair, it was unbelievable. You got to understand, I'm 5'7". I literally felt 6'7".
I look in the mirror, I feel confident, I feel like I look good, I feel better on the inside.
The confidence that I lost when realising that I was losing and my hair was thinning, I've gained now tenfold.
Like these guys, it's the best thing I've done.
Call Advanced Hair Studio now.
EasyJet's 20th birthday sale is now on, with up to 20% off 500,000 seats. Don't miss the party. Book your seat today.
The Aviva Premiership Rugby Final. Be part of it.
Come on, David. Leave colour code into your wardrobe. You're far from perfect, but that's just what she likes about you. If you don't like your imperfections,
someone else will.
Find them at one of our bowling nights or on our app. Just like David. Match. Join free today.
Can handle a lot. But with Head and Shoulders, at least they don't have to worry about flakes. Head and Shoulders, unbeatable dandruff protection.
At Amazon Prime Video, something amazing is going down, because now you can download movies and TV shows to your tablet or smartphone and watch them on the go at no extra cost. Download the biggest titles, including Amazon exclusives and originals. Just choose your title, click the icon, download and watch wherever you are. Stream and download with Prime Video. Try it for free.
People think Californians live in our own reality.
With our heads in the clouds.
Like a bunch of space cadets. Huh? What?
I've drawn a blank. What's my line?
Maybe we do live in a fantasy.
In our own little bubble.
Just hanging out. As if we're not completely down to earth.
But just a bunch of dreamers?
No way. We're just like everyone else.
You know, average Joes.
Start dreaming big at visitcalifornia.co.uk.
This program is sponsored by Bet365.
Welcome back to Hunter Stadium, where at half-time it is scoreless between the Newcastle Jets and the Melbourne Victory. A frustrated Kevin Muscat there and a frustrated both coaches, you'd have to say, after what was a fairly heated opening 45, particularly at the end. But at the end of that 45, there were no goals to show for it. Matt Thompson alongside me, Richard Bayless, to go through that opening 45 with you. And Tomo, we know Victory, they started well, but on the balance of power, how did you assess that 45 minutes?
Yeah, like you said, they did start well, but I think the Jets started to sort of figure that out a bit. They pushed a little bit higher up and they got in some good positions themselves and created some opportunities. So I think they'll try and do that again in the second half.
We'll have a look at some stats, and when you look at it on the whole, everything was pretty even. I mean, beyond the fact that Victory did start well, possession was even, passes into the box very similar. The only real difference being attempts on target, and as has been the case all season long, Mark Birighitti again stood up for the Jets in the goal. And we'll have a look at some of the chances the Victory fashioned out, and most of them you'll see were in the opening half of that first half, the opening quarter of the match, I guess you could say. And Tomo, they had all the field position, all the possession, but they just couldn't find that final ball.
Yeah, and look, I mean, that comes down to a bit of a lack of confidence, and obviously the last month for both teams hasn't been great. So there's obviously a little bit of confidence not all there yet. I mean, so I think Jason Hoffman's done extremely well there just to put Archie off. So I think that's a great battle at the moment, those two with Jason Hoffman and Archie, and I think we'll see more of that in the second half. And here we are again. Like I said, this is probably early on in that first half. Just giving themselves some space and a shot there. And again, like you said, Beer's on target there.
Where do you see things changing, perhaps? Because it shouldn't be a surprise, but Archie Thompson was lively over on the left with Ben Kalfala in at 10. Thompson looks to be the one finding the space. Is that the outlet for you at the moment?
I think so. I think that's the way they're going. I think Coburn's doing a good job on Barbarouses, which is great. Hoffy's doing quite a good job on Archie, although Archie, like I said, he seems to get half a yard no matter who's marking him. So And to be fair, it looks like Calfalo is actually enjoying that 10 role. It seems like he's buzzing around a bit more. He's got a bit more to do and he's getting some more touches. And I think that'll be important for Victory in the second half again.
We know the Jets want to be compact. David Carney said it before the game. Victory expected the Jets to be compact. But what does that actually mean for the Victory's wide guys? Because surely that's what they want, isn't it?
Well, you'd think so. I mean, look, the most dangerous guy in the game in the league at the moment is Berisha. So if you can starve him with a football, you're doing well, and that's why Archie's getting a lot of ball, because they are compact. And I guess Scott Miller is backing his left and right back to do the job on those two wingers. Every now and again they're going to get around him, which is going to happen, but it's what they do after that. And I think they're scrambling well.
In terms of the Jets, they weren't without their own chances, it has to be said, and particularly once they got a footing in that half, probably after the 20-minute mark in particular. And we'll see a good chance coming up, fashioned by Lividic, and in the end it opened for Lividic again. Is it again a matter of confidence, Tomo? Is it that final ball just not quite there after a difficult period?
Yeah, look, I think everyone's trying to get a teammate give it to someone else and they'll be the one to do it. I think someone needs to go, no, I'll take care of this and I'll finish it myself. And look at this, there's a few opportunities here that both teams has. Just that final pass, way to pass is what's killing both teams. And I think it was important for the Jets in the second half. When they pushed up higher, they seemed to pickpocket a few of the midfielders and create some opportunities for themselves. And for me, that's what the Jets need to do. They need to push up a little bit higher. I wouldn't mind seeing a few more forward runs, just to put the back four in a little bit more of a drama for Victory. And obviously a little bit tussle here, David versus Goliath in that one. But look, and this is a fantastic opportunity. And for me, you've got to have a crack there. Again, cohesion, you can call it all you like, but I mean, 2 yards outside the 6-yard box, you have a shot. Simple.
It was good to see some niggle there as well between Broxham and Trifunovic. It happened between Berisha and Bogart. There is definitely goals and plenty of niggle, hopefully some cards and some action, whatever, in the second 45. Remember, coming up, though, after this match, we have plenty more, starting with Shootout with Tara and the boys. Let's check in with Tara now to see what's coming up.
Thanks, Rich. Well, don't go anywhere. Coming up soon, the boys on the couch will dissect the cracker between Melbourne City and Sydney FC, as well as all the other games from round 13. We'll take a look back at the best A-League goals of 2015. Darren Lewis will have all the latest EPL news out of London, and we hear from some Socceroos legends ahead of their clash with the Liverpool legends this Thursday night. So relax, kick back, because it's all coming up right after this match. See you soon.
Yes, thank you, Tara. Looking forward to the show as always. Well, don't go anywhere, because after the break we'll have the second 45 from Hunter Stadium. At the moment it is 0-0 between the Newcastle Jets and Melbourne Victory.
This program is sponsored by Bet365.
With the awesome speed of 4G and our colossal Wi-Fi network, BT Mobile will give the people of the United Kingdom exactly what they deserve.
Kat, we can see you in the shop. Come on.
Hi. With BT Mobile, get the UK's best value 4G plan, starting from just £5 a month if you've got BT broadband at home. Switch today. Visit BT Mobile at bt.com/mobile or call 0800 456 1100.
HP Instant Ink. Ordered by your printer. Delivered to your door. So the fun never runs out. HP Instant Ink. Plans start at £1.99 per month.
You smell that? What is that?
What?
What's that smell? The cologne? No, money. I smell money. Okay.
The Big Short has been nominated for 4 Golden Globe Awards, including Best Actor Christian Bale, Best Actor Steve Carell, and Best Picture of the Year.
Object! Object to the text!
Good.
It's stupendously funny and hugely entertaining.
You guys said you want to get rich. Kind of brilliant.
The Big Short.
If your washer's gone walkabout, your local hero can help in the Euronic sale. Save £30 on this Hotpoint 1400 spin 7kg washer dryer. Now only $329.99. And this Hotpoint 7kg condenser tumble dryer is only $199.99. online and on your high street. Big brands, superhero service. Only in the Euronics sale.
What does a good teacher make these days? They make the complex understandable and the mind-boggling magical.
They make inert bodies react.
They make skies bluer and horizons broader.
They make eyes widen and mouths drop.
And if you want to know what else a good teacher makes, it's probably more than you think.
Apply now. Search Get Into Teaching.
It's squeaky bum time for Brightside. He's one win away from his 5-team accumulator. But what he didn't bet on was the long arm of the linesman. But that's not going to ruin his night. He's Mr. Brightside. Bright in nature, bright in IQ. He knows at Ladbrokes 5 out of 5 you win and 4 out of 5 you don't lose. Place your 5-team ACCA at Ladbrokes this weekend. If one team lets you down, get your money back as a free bet.
Bath Store's triple discount sale ends Sunday. Save up to 50%, get an extra 10% off and a further 10% off too. It's the only sale that matters.
It's round 5 of the European Champions Cup here on BT Sports. With 2 more pool games to go, it's crunch time in the European Rugby Champions Cup. The drama returns live on BT Sports.
This programme is sponsored by Bet365.
Marisha can normally be relied upon to provide a spark for Melbourne victory, but this was the spark that led to a rather angry confrontation between Marisha and Bogard. It ended up with the Albanian being issued a yellow card. We'll see if that battle continues in the second period. Meantime, we're going to hear from the Victory football manager, Paul Trimboli, who's with Glenn Lauder.
Well, Tremors, Newcastle kept quite a high line that first half. What's the message from Kevin?
Well, Kev's message was mainly get the ball to the wide players and isolate them. He thinks we can get some joy in those areas, but we've got to be dedicated in getting the ball to them.
Obviously, a few fouls, 17 fouls in that half. Quite fiery. Happy with the way the referees controlled it?
I don't think he's been a factor, the referee. I think the competitiveness of both teams, they both want to win. It's been a while between wins for both teams, but we just need to get that balance between turning the ball over and playing quickly. We want to play quickly, but we don't want to get into that game where it's a continued turnover, and they're picking up the ball in dangerous positions.
So we'd like to see more of Archie and Costa?
A little bit, yeah.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
Cheers.
The words of Paul Trimboli as the Newcastle Jets get the ball rolling for the second half. Both teams going in search of goals, which have been difficult to find for both of late. The Jets need to find one before the 78th minute today, or they will set a new and unwanted club record for minutes gone without a goal. As for Victory, they went a little bit flat at the second part of that first half. Andy Harper looking to get a bit of impetus through Archie Thompson here.
Very important start for the second half. Newcastle, I don't think, can afford to give Victory as much respect as they did at the start of the game. Or this one, I think, might get out of control for them.
Barisha and Bogard holding each other off again inside the penalty area. There are appeals for hands against Cameron Watson, who just had a little nervous look towards Jared Gillett. Victory fans trying to lift their team. Jason Gary about to take the throw in front of them. Barisha angles it back towards Kalfala, who stumbled under pressure from Watson. Leibedic. Hoffman to go long, and it's Ani Trifunovic within range. Melbourne Victory have scored just 2 second-half goals all season. Both of those, away from home, I should say. Both of those were at Sydney FC in the Big Blue when they won by 4 goals to 2.
Ryan Kitto driving through the lines for Newcastle. Gary with the challenge. He did have Kantarowski behind him in support, but Kitto had other ideas. Watson slips it through for Cowburn. He'll get there, and it's not a bad delivery either. And eventually it came off Georgievski for a Jets corner.
It was a beauty from Cowburn. He just dropped it on the perfect spot, which is going to sound silly, given the fact that there was no one there to finish it off, but there should have been. If Trifunovic needs service, well, he got caviar on a plate then.
Kitto's corner. Oh, and it was met forcefully by Jason Hoffman, but he couldn't keep it down.
Well, the hard bit's all done. Winning some space for yourself. He got rid of Georgievski and just needed to control the header, which compared to everything else in that sequence was a relatively easy bit.
Given his height, Jason Hoffman, you'd think he might score more goals from set pieces. Did score one in the Melbourne derby for City, I seem to remember, or were they still Hart then?
It's your story. Ask Matt Thompson, I'm sure he remembers every Melbourne Hart goal fondly before he goes to bed at night.
Bozanic. It's going to favour Birighitti. Who had plenty of work to do in the early stages of the game. Not so much since. Bogard having to be smart to get rid of Berisha. Hoffman craned the neck muscles too early. Presented it for Broxham. This is Thompson. Has not been nearly involved enough, I'm sure, for Kevin Muscat's liking. Polyak. They do have Connor Payne on the bench, Andy. I wonder whether they might be thinking of the Ollie Roux at some stage.
Yeah. Perhaps Rashid Mahazi before him. Just getting a bit of a breakdown in midfield at the moment. Bozanic's last couple of possessions haven't ended up where they've needed to. Add a third to that.
Kitto, whose decision-making at times this afternoon has not quite been up to scratch. Still finding his way in the A-League, his second crack at it. After a stint with his hometown club, Adelaide United, for whom this man used to play as well, of course, Nigel Bogard. Polyak. Kitto again. Back with Bogard. It will drop kindly for Trifunovic. Of course, he's now in a position in the middle where they'd really like him to be. And the cross, again, is somewhat disappointing from Kitto. A little over-eager, perhaps, at times today.
Yeah, look, he's good on occasion coming off the bench. Lively and positive. A little bit nervous, he's looked to me today. He's certainly not playing the way he can. And, you know, youngsters making their way, you've got to cut them a bit of slack, but professional sport has a ill-defined, but otherwise very clear cut-off point where trying your best is not going to be good enough. Now, he's well short of hitting that mark. There's still some slack that's cut for the likes of Ryan Kitto, but with the opportunity to play professional football, so too comes a responsibility and an expectation.
Well, we know that Ange Postecoglou in particular wants media to start putting pressure on players, maybe even give marks out of 10.
Is that what I just did?
Well, come on. What's your out of 10 for Kitto at the moment?
Work in progress. Can do better. Can do better.
Dodged.
Do you want to put a number on it?
No. Maybe ask you later. Here's Kalfala. Now Barbarousa's got front position. Bozanic! And it's blocked by Hoffman on the edge of the 6-yard box. First real clear-cut opening of the second half. And it presented itself to Oliver Bozanic, of all people.
I'm going to suggest that the 3 or 4 possessions before that for Ollie predisposed him to not making the most of that chance. He just hasn't looked himself at the start of this second half, and that was a fantastic chance for Melbourne victory. At the place that has been their graveyard.
Watson brought to ground. Here's that chance again, Andy.
Well, through the legs of the Newcastle defender, Dan Mullen, and a beautiful left foot he's got, but he just tightened up. There's no confidence in that at all.
I think he might have actually hit it into the ground first. Just trying to place it in that opposite corner to the goalkeeper.
Almost, the more I see it, that second time, it confirms in my mind that the 3 or 4 errant passes before then set that sequence in train in his own mind.
Barusha's gone too early, and he's berating Archie Thompson, so you've got to play it quicker than that. He's fired up as Barusha, and Thompson not best pleased with the spray he's just received.
Oh, reading
how quickly can I play
well,
it?
Exactly, the ball hadn't even settled yet. That was the 3 furrows on his brow, that's what he said. That's what that means. If you're into reading furrowed brows. We both just had a go.
Competitive tension between teammates. They've got a good record when they start together. 33 goals they've back between them when they're both in the same starting 11. 19 between the two of them. It's 33 as a team, I should say. Here's Watson. Del Pierre taking a tumble. Broxham. Barbarosas.
Well defended Calburn. Turned him back. And now it's Newcastle who are forcing the errors off the victory. That's superb work from Thomas Deng, isn't he? Blossoming. Speaking about young players.
Brilliantly read. His anticipation there was excellent. And timing too. If he got that a fraction wrong, the Jets were in. Talking of which, that wasn't bad by Guerrier either.
Excellent.
Being hassled by Kitto. And Thompson sprints away, but he's offside.
Really excellent, Thomas Deng.
Bogarts. Oh, now we just praised Thomas Deng. He's got a caution, rightly so, for grabbing a hold of Trifunovic's jersey there. And he's perhaps only fortunate that Trifunovic wasn't closer to goal.
Yeah, well, he got himself the wrong side. Or better say, the striker got himself on the advantage side of the defender and rolled him. And then the tangle could have been instigated by one. It's a clear free kick.
5 or 10 metres closer towards the penalty area. We might have been seeing a different colour card there.
A much hotter discussion, you're right. The Newcastle are looking very, very solid.
And the home fans responding. Nick Calburn with the free kick. Del Pierre first to it. Thompson beaten in the air by Kitto, but the counter-attack is very much on now for victory. Daniel Georgievski leading the charge. Has Barusha, Barbarosas and Thompson all herring towards the penalty area, and he can't find any of them. And then a heavy touch by Hoffman presents the ball back at the feet of Oli Bozanic. Now Kalfala, who had a bright start in common with many of his teammates, but has somewhat faded. Little clip towards Thompson at the far post, and Hoffman there ahead of him.
And in the end, well defended again. Georgievski didn't quite hit the cross that was needed, but Calburn had recovered well enough. So to Jason Hoffman. And they've seen the initial danger away, and they've pinched the ball. Very disciplined individually, the Newcastle Jets.
Now Kantarowski just left a trailing leg dangling for Barusha to fall over. That's why the whistle went. It's Georgievski who's come off worse at the subsequent challenge. We'll see here. Whoops, so you go.
And then after it was Jason Hoffman and Georgievski.
That stung. That stung Daniel Georgievski. Hoffman, of course, already in the book.
So Thomas Deng, yellow card for his last challenge, which we'll see in a sec.
Free kick quickly taken. This is Bozanic. Had an excellent chance some minutes ago. Kalfala. Thompson appealed off. Kalfala happy to go on his own and try and hit the byline. And final touch was off Kalfala.
Yeah, it surprised me.
Which he is filthy about.
Yeah, well, it surprised me. What we know for a fact is that Kalfala teased Hoffman and he just stayed true. Did the fullback for the Jets. Maybe there was a touch off Kalfala. That's not conclusive. My first instinct was corner. And I can't see by that evidence that that should be turned over. Nevertheless, there's one person whose view counts more than anyone's.
Heavy touch by Kantarovski and the momentum breaks down for the Jets. Thompson offside again, but there's more urgency about the game from both teams second half.
It's ticking away for the victory. This is such an important game for the defending champions.
It's been bounced away from Alievich.
They need to be, and everyone expects them to be in the discussion about the race for silverware. Deng versus Trifunovic. So his starting position is wrong anyway, Thomas Deng. He looks to correct it, and we can see the first contact, which has come from Trifunovic, but the trouble's already been caused by the initial starting point, in my opinion, for Thomas Deng. Inside out, defenders should be. And once the smarts of Trifunovic had realised that the defender was slightly out of position, he exacerbated that, did make the first contact. But the defender was in all sorts from that point on.
All part of the learning curve, no doubt, for Thomas Deng. Off to Qatar after this game, along with 4 other Victory players. Those AFC Under-23 championships. The good news for Victory is that Nick Ansell, I know is a favourite of yours, Andy, is not too far away after his long injury layoff. Now Kitto, but Deng is across quickly again.
Well, he started second favourite there, Thomas Deng. Ultimately beat Kitto to it. A tremendous opportunity brewing for Newcastle. The youngster snuffed it out.
They played almost an hour in Newcastle. Still no damage to the score sheet. The Jets have another free kick.
Had more than a handful of Jason Guerrier's shirt then too, did Ryan Kitto. Maybe on the way down he sought some assistance. Well, this is a very good position for Newcastle.
Well, these are the sorts of situations they've got to try and profit from. Home fans sense it too. Mullins up there, so too Bogart. Oh, the delivery again is too flat from Calburn. Disappointing for the home team's point of view. And they're going to go all the way back to Mark Berregitti. Rado Vidicic has just been dispatched away to our left to talk to some of the Melbourne Victory substitutes. Looks as though Connor Payne is the one he's gone to first. Wonder if that'll be for Archie Thompson. First start, of course, since the back end of last season. Might just be running on empty, and he's struggled to be involved an awful lot for Victory. Who's the onus on here, Andy, to take the game by the scruff of the neck? The champions who are expected to win, or the home team playing in front of their own gallery?
That's exactly the conundrum. But I would suggest that Newcastle, given the foundation they've established, need to expect themselves to push from here.
Here's Georgievski on the left. Easy pickings for Birighitti.
You know, they're quite obviously very in this game. It wasn't looking like eventuating that way after the opening 10 minutes. But they're well in it. And it's got to be the mentality, having established that, to find the opportunity to force a winner for yourself.
Berisha outside of the boot, Barbarouses. This looks threatening for Newcastle, but they can't pick out Berisha. All Calfella inside the penalty area, and the chance is gone.
The expectation is going to remain, very understandably, that it'll be the Victory who create most of the play, and that's a function of the quality on the team sheet. But Newcastle have done very well in filing that advantage back.
Well, Victory with the more incursions into the penalty area. They fashioned just that one real chance for this man, Oli Bozanic. Beautifully worked it was too by Costa Barbarouses. Well blocked by Jason Hoffman.
Braden Crowley's getting ready on the Newcastle bench to enter the fray.
Looking to inject a little more pep into the Newcastle attack as Berisha tries to roll Daniel Mullen. Bogard with the intervention. This is Del Pierre. Oh dear, came off his shin, I think. Bogard to carry it forward under no real pressure, and then release the diagonal, finds Levitic beautifully, and Hoffman is bombing forward, and he'll get there ahead of Archie Thompson. Now can he pick out a teammate? It's Kantarovski, might drop for Trifunovic, behind him is Poljak, Milos Trifunovic, how long do they need? Just dallied too long. Back with Bogard. Poljak has remained down on the turf, and they'll stop the play so he can get some treatment. But a really good chance there for the Jets.
The first blockage of the flow came from Jason Hoffman, surprisingly. Made a great burst into the box. Terrific supporting run. And this is the back end of it. Poljak being poleaxed by Thomas Deng. And instead, once he'd got there, look at this superb run from Jason Hoffman. And instead of whipping that across the 6-yard box, the attack loses momentum, and then it's like dominoes in the minds of players. They then start second-guessing themselves. The defence gets a chance to regroup, and the danger's seen away.
Meantime, Brian Kitto replaced by Braden Crowley, the 19-year-old. There's his fan club, the Braden Bunch. Love it. Used to be the part of the ground where, wasn't it, the Zabs lads?
Oh, there's been the Topor's crew and the Carney's crew.
Vira's boys.
Vira's boys. Yeah, the Carney crew's moved to the other end of the field.
Well, that's because he was doing the pre-game show.
That's there every week now. But they're likely to get more joy. He's been on a couple of the pre- and post-game chats on the pod. Has Carnes.
Out with suspension today. Connor Payne is ready to come on for Melbourne Victory. Next break in play. This is Mullen. Watson. Cowburn. This game has promised goals, but so far hasn't delivered. Oh, there's an awkward one for Bogard, and Berisha was so quick to spot the opportunity. Thankfully for the Jets, so too was their goalkeeper.
He showed a lot of faith in Birighitti, did Nigel Bogard. I thought he was the odds-on favourite to get there first, but Bogard's going to win that, and then he backs the goalkeeper in. Well, credit the positive play of Mark Birighitti.
Well, Archie Thompson's first start of the season has lasted almost 67 minutes. And there's his replacement, Connor Payne, making his 23rd appearance off the bench since his last start. Here's Bozanic, top of the box. Del Pierre, first touch for Payne. Now Berisha, just let it run away from him slightly, and Watson with a solid block, and then there was some contact between Trifunovic and Thomas Deng, and the decision has gone Melbourne victory's way. He looks quizzical. Not sure how much English he speaks, Milos Trifunovic, but the sign language is doing the job with the linesman.
You don't need to be Marcel Marceau to work that one out.
Barbarossas, Guerrier on the outside. Birighitti out to smother.
Good work, Birighitti, but well marshalled. Nige Bogard in front of him. No real trouble for the Newcastle goalkeeper. It's just that one moment, the Bozanic effort, which has been the best chance of the game. Otherwise, the Jets' penalty area has been very, very well defended today.
Connor Payne. Calfalla. He's got two to deal with. He's drawn the foul. It's a little soft.
I reckon that's just a bit of a cheap giveaway from Cam Watson. He could have been way more subtle, pinched the ball and run away with it.
Barbarossas running away from defenders, but not able to pick out Berisha where he wanted it. This is Broxham. Guerrier. Telegraphed it straight at Coburn, who's able to clear his lines. The Jets very deep. Knew they were going to have to be compact at certain stages this afternoon. Looks like this is one of those phases. Deng. Broxham. Again, just not quite the execution for victory.
Just can't find that pass, can they? They've got the Jets stretched. Good position.
Oh, Vukovic went with his head because he somewhat lost his bearings there. I actually thought he was inside his penalty area.
Vukovic claiming a foul, an illegality by Ben Kanarowski. It's a good burst of the Newcastle man. It's a handball, isn't it? Anyway, ref mightn't have been able to see it from his vantage point.
Vukovic also claiming that should be a goal kick and not a corner.
Either way, it should be a victory ball, probably.
Anyway, we're into the final 20 minutes. Deadlock yet to be broken. Cowburn's corner. Won by Newcastle heads. Partially dealt with by Guerrier, and there's collateral damage on the far side of the victory penalty box. We'll come back to that in a moment because there's a break on here for the champions. It's Barbarossas. Beautiful ball. Here's Fahid Ben Khalfan, and he scores at last. Fair to say that one has been coming for a few weeks for the Tunisian, and the champions lead with 20 minutes to go in Newcastle.
More than a passing sense of relief for victory, but it was purely brilliant, ultimately. Defending the corner, which maybe shouldn't have been. Barbarossas looked dangerous. He got a friendly rebound, but then hit a peach of a pass. It was so difficult to split the defence and put it on exactly the right blade of grass. Wonderful technique, Costa Barbarossas, and then to the finish of Calfalla. And perhaps the ghosts of last week against Perth Glory were looming in the consciousness of the Tunisian. And he says, blow that and cop this.
Well, he hit the post, the inside of the post in the Melbourne derby. Blazed over, as you say, Andy, from about 3 metres against the Glory. But he didn't miss that one. And how crucial could that goal prove to be for Melbourne victory as they try and dig themselves out of this poor run of results?
Well, it's a massive massive boost for victory. Had such a clinical, fluent finish. Really, I mean, the goal's good enough for the confidence.
In the meantime, Jared Gillett is just going to come across and have a word in the ear of Scott Miller, who's had a bit to say. And he's just been reminded that Mr. Gillett is in charge of this game. Understandable, his team has battled hard today and they've been caught by a sucker punch.
And in normal circumstances, if there are any such thing in a football match, Newcastle need to feel that they can still get something out of this game, because they've been, outside of the first quarter hour, very competitive. But Scott Miller knows that holding a team is one thing, that they've shown they're quite capable at. Troubling the scorer is another discussion altogether.
Well, they are now just 5 or so minutes away from setting that new and unwanted club record of having not scored in, well, goodness knows what it is now, about 7.5 hours. The previous record, 457 minutes. If it ticks past the 78-minute mark, it will surpass that.
I wonder if at some point there's a structure change in the mind of Scott Miller. And I'm thinking of Braden Crowley, who's a goal sneak. He's playing wide left at the moment. I'm not convinced that playing on the wing is his natural position. And he can do the job out there as the coach requires. But to change the paradigm of this game, bring the little man into play with the big man. See if he can feed off Trifunovic, because he is a goal sneak, Braden Crowley. There's no doubt about that.
Interesting, sorry Andy, little battle going on the touchlines. Scott Miller just pointing out to the fourth official. Kevin Muscat was remonstrating quite forcefully there with Jared Gillett. And Scott Miller was saying to the fourth official, hang on, how come he's not speaking to him? Meantime, it's really well won by Crowley, and this is a Leibniz on the top of the penalty area for the Jets. Polyak to slip it through, Cam Watson to curl it towards Trifunovic. And he couldn't get the direction or the power.
Well, again, intensely physical contest around the 6-yard box. Good contact. Good cross from Watson. Great stuff, Braden Crowley. A speculator, no question.
Whoa, now that was flying from Barbarouses, and just for a second, as you watch that replay, Birighitti was just nervously looking over his shoulder because he'd just ventured off his line a metre or two. Thankfully for him, Barbarouses' cross drifted wide of his goal. Just over a quarter of an hour to go. This could be a big win in the context of victory season from Newcastle's perspective. They are desperate to find a goal. Here's Besart Berisha as they look to make the game safe. His shot hits his own player, Connor Payne, on the way through. Kalfala. Came off Crowley for a victory throw-in. It's not exactly been the sort of fluent performance that we've become accustomed to seeing from victory over the last 12 months, and I'm sure they won't care about that if they get out of here with 3 points.
I think that's a primary concern for them today. Having said that, it was a wonderfully fluent move that scored them the goal that separates the teams.
And here was the architect of it, Barbarouses. Just slipped there. He fell somewhat heavily. The Jets crowd feeling that he's trying to play for the free kick. I think he was just a little bit winded, in fairness to him. That's a late challenge by Bozanic, and that's going to attract the ire of Jared Gillett, and another yellow card.
Yep. Fair pick up by the ref.
Well, he's second on the A-League list for fouls conceded this season, Ollie Bozanic. Yep, that's just his second booking. Rashid Mahazi being readied by Kevin Muscat. And the Jets pondering their second change as well. It's going to be Radovan Pavicevic for the Jets. Here's Berisha. Slides it through slightly behind Barbarouses, but he readjusted beautifully, and a good block by Birighitti with the legs to keep Newcastle in it for the time being. Well, the Victory posing an ever-increasing threat on the counter as the Jets push numbers forward.
A terrific save that by Birighitti. He's having a wonderful season. Barbarouses did so well to prop and aim up for the goal.
Free kick Victory, and here are the changes. Milos Trifunovic is going to give way for Radovan Pavicevic. Well, he's had a few chances tonight. Never really looked likely to break his many goal droughts. Has he given enough effort for Scott Miller today?
Well, that's up to Scott Miller. I think he's been more industrious today than previous weeks. Maybe I mark him too hard, but I certainly saw an improvement.
Fahid Ben Khalfallah playing that number 10 role today in the continued absence of Guy Finkler, in no particular hurry to get off. Started the game well, and then of course provided the crucial moment 7 minutes ago. He's seriously taking his time getting off the park, which is not endearing him to the Jets faithful. So a return to first team action for Rashid Mahazi after his knee injury kept him out against Perth Glory last week. And I can tell you now that the Jets have, as we tick over to the 79th minute, set up that new and unwanted club record, 458 minutes without a goal in the A-League. Where's the next one coming from, Andy?
Can I give you the Powerball numbers, rather?
Can you remember the last Jet to score in the A-League?
No.
Ben Kantarovski against Melbourne City.
Is that long ago?
Yeah. End of October. Something that Scott Miller is no doubt keen to address in January with the window.
They need a couple of players to really seriously change that statistic. By this stage of the season, Leonardo might have run the cobwebs out and been providing plenty of the ammunition, but his contribution has never got going.
So my apologies, it wasn't against Melbourne City, it was against Brisbane. Round 8 was Kantarovski's goal. Right goal scorer, wrong game. Still, whichever way you slice it, it's a long time ago.
It's a famine, that's for sure.
That's the conundrum he must try and solve. Here's the Aslive ladder. Won't do anything for Victory's position, but it would take them to within a point of their crosstown rivals Melbourne City and Sydney FC. Newcastle would remain where they are. The chance to go in the top 6, of course, if they could have got the win today.
Well, you know, they've had a couple of opportunities this season at home, leading games to go top. They were leading the Central Coast Mariners, then the Western Sydney Wanderers. They lost both those leads, and this part of the season has disappeared before their very eyes, really.
Victory's next game in Geelong, of course, although it is nominally away against the Mariners. Newcastle make the trip down the motorway to face Sydney FC. Berisha. Oh, chopped over his own laces.
Sniper.
And he's giving Connor Payne a bake. At least I think he is. Draw the biggest cheer of the afternoon for the Newcastle fans. Whoops.
Whoopsie. He got a stare at least.
I think he got a smirk as well from Connor Payne.
Suffice to say that one of them's running on the FM currency and one's on the AM. Frequency, rather.
Well, he's still trying to have a chat with Payne, it's Berisha, but I don't think Payne's listening. Mullen. Well, he did the hard work and then gave the ball away. Bozanic. Beautiful pirouettes by the Victory midfielder. Now Berisha runs into Bogart. Well, I think he drew the contact there. Maybe you disagree, Andy. It's a yellow card for Bogart.
Well, the lead-up work was brilliant from Ollie Bozanic. That's a foul.
Yeah, it is a foul.
No question.
Mark Berrugetti with the loudest voice inside the stadium, making sure his instructions are clear. He's been one of the standouts for the Jets this season. There's not been a huge amount of competition. Bozanic's delivery, just trying to curl it towards Barbarouses. Flicks off the head of Cam Watson for another Victory corner. Well, smiles on the face of the Victory fans. We've not said that too often in recent weeks. On the brink of their first clean sheet in 9 matches as well. Bozanic. Met by Pavicevic. One back by Berisha. Delpierre. Georgievski. Payne. 2 defenders with him, and he managed to slalom his way through for Berisha. Will be a Newcastle throw. Handy weapon off the bench is Connor Payne. I'm sure he would much prefer to be starting. He's out of contract at the end of the season, Andy. Is he the sort of player that you'd be wanting to keep? And if you were Connor Payne, would you be wanting a guarantee of a bit more starting action?
Well, you know, Melbourne Victory is not the sort of club where you can demand anything if you're a player, a youngster coming through, and that's the truism of football around the world. And maybe Connor Payne would elect another club if there's a suitor to get regular football.
I think there might be 1 or 2.
You'd imagine so.
Bozanic shifting it back towards Deng, and then Mahazi. That was well reeled in by Mahazi. There's a couple of metres wide of him, and he stretched out a long left foot. Ensure Victory remain in possession of the ball for a moment or 2 at least. Again, the silence descends around Hunter Stadium. The Jets desperately in need of a spark. Polyak trying to provide it. Arm across him by Mahazi. Jared Gillett's happy to let that one go. This is a Leverdic who started the game brightly. Not a bad cross. Met well by Guerrier. Berisha. Having a run for the corner. Danny Vukovic, not for the first time in the game, happy to use his head. Payne forced to check. Well, that's just an unforced error, really, by Bozanic.
And it keeps Newcastle alive. But for Newcastle to realise anything, this is the point that I tried to raise earlier about changing the formation. Playing with two wingers is fine if you're getting a midfielder or a defender who can spread the play with effect, and you can use the advantage of your wingers. I just think at the moment for Newcastle, they've got to get their teammates in closer proximity to each other and feed off some closer connections. That's why I'd be interested to know why a 4-4-2, bringing in another central striker, wouldn't be part of a possible solution to this. In the short term, that is.
More changes afoot off the bench. Meantime, Alibadic has earned his team a free kick. Georgievski protesting that he had his jersey held in the first place.
Cramp for Alibadic outside of this. There she goes. Awful feeling. And you suspect it's now or never for Newcastle.
Well, only 5 teams in A-League history have gone 5 matches straight without scoring a goal. That's why there are some frustrated Newcastle Jets supporters in the stands. When is their luck, when are their fortunes going to change? 5 years without finals football and almost 5 games without a goal. Unless they can find some late inspiration here. Watson's ball in. It's over the head of Hoffman. Kovacevic happy to let it run out before the throw-in can be taken. Another change. Besart Berisha is going to be withdrawn in favour of Jesse Makarunas. Well, no goal for the Albania today. A few boos from the crowd. One little flare-up with Nigel Bogart. And one stumble which he didn't see the funny side of. But they still love him. They don't. The only thing worse than being talked about is not being talked about.
Exactly right. Don't care what you say, just don't misspell my name.
And it's going to be a corner for the Jets.
The last set piece put no pressure on Melbourne Victory. But the Victory haven't been able to clear it completely, so now they'll have to defend this corner.
And we're going to have 4 minutes of stoppage time, we're told, by the 4th official. Corner clipped in and Vurkovic with an easy gather. Under no real pressure. There's confirmation of the 4 additional. All that separates Melbourne Victory from ending their 5-game run without a win. And they're going to be brought all the way back for an offside.
Mm.
Sixth of the game from Victory's point of view. Hoffman for Alibadic. Well dug out by Payne. Georgievski putting his boot through it. Bozanic the furthest forward now with Berisha off the park. And Georgievski again. It's pretty agricultural, but it does the job. It's the 2nd minute of stoppage time. Alibadic. Bogart, took his eye off it, could be costly. Barbarouses on the move, slips it through, Makarunas with a chance to finish it. And credit to the Jets defence who got back to scramble. And that's a foul by Barbarouses.
Hell of a recovery from Nigel Bogart. He had to save his own skin though. He coughed the ball up badly. The Jets struggling to get the ball forward, which is what they got to do if they're going to salvage anything.
Nice little touch around the corner by Pavicevic, and then goes for the return off Coburn. Can he find the cross? He's picked out Enver Alividic. Last knockings here in Newcastle, and Alividic has lifted it over the crossbar.
Worth a go. Worth a go. You can't hang him out to dry for that. It's good interplay on the left-hand side and a very useful cross from Pavicevic. And it's not a bad option, just the execution from the tiring Alividic.
Well, it really is a case of now or never for Newcastle. Normally the site of Melbourne victory on home turf. Cause enough for the Jets to start licking their lips, but it's not been the case today. Might still be able to claw a point out. Alividic with the cross. It's too far for Crowley. Oh, and then the referee getting in the way of Mateo Poljak. When your luck's against you, it's really against you. Just as Poljak was shaping to control that ball, Jared Gillett acted as victory's 12th man. Inadvertently, it should be said. Plenty to think about for Scott Miller. Into the 5th minute of stoppage time, still we go on. Bozanic content to try and play a bit of keep ball with Payne. And there we go, full-time whistle, and it is a first win for Melbourne victory in Newcastle since January 2012, as the hoodoo in this part of the world is finally ended, and a welcome 3 points for the champions for the first time since late November. The Jets battled hard, but we're lacking spark and inspiration. It's 5 games without a goal now for Scott Miller's team. It is looking rather grim for the Jets. John Paul de Marini with a hug for Kevin Muscat. Of course, those two were in tandem at victory last season. 9 without a win for the Jets, just 2 short of their own club record. And 1 goal was enough from Fahid Ben Khalfallah in the 71st minute. A delightful assist from Costa Barbarouses. And despite some early heroics from Mark Birighitti, Newcastle were unable to conjure up much to trouble Danny Vukovic at the other end. Full-time scoreline, Newcastle Jets 0, Melbourne victory 1. Let's join...
This programme is sponsored by Bet365.
Her skin surrendered to the piercing teeth. Such is the fate of those who encounter the children of the night.
Carphone Warehouse presents something big. Bigger! Bigger! No, bigger! Too big. It's the UK's biggest mobile sale, featuring this beautiful Samsung Galaxy S6 Edge. Save £150, just £29 per month, bigger than a T-Rex! Not as big as space. The UK's biggest mobile sale!
Joe Hart can handle a lot. But with Head and Shoulders, at least you don't have to worry about flakes. Head and Shoulders. Unbeatable dandruff protection.
The Aviva Premiership Rugby Final.
be part of it.
You smell that? What is that? What? What's that smell? The cologne? No, money. I smell money. Okay.
The Big Short has been nominated for 4 Golden Globe Awards, including Best Actor Christian Bale, Best Actor Steve Carell, and Best Picture of the Year.
Object! Object to the text!
Good. It's stupendously funny and hugely entertaining.
You guys said you want to get rich. Kind of brilliant.
The Big Short.
At Amazon Prime Video, something amazing is going down. Because now you can download movies and TV shows to your tablet or smartphone and watch them on the go at no extra cost. Download the biggest titles, including Amazon exclusives and originals. Just choose your title, click the icon, download, and watch wherever you are. Stream and download with Prime Video. Try it for free.
You'll find all kinds of events like bowling on our app. So you can find your next date doing what you love. Match. Join free today.
People think Californians live in our own reality.
With our heads in the clouds.
Like a bunch of space cadets. Huh? What?
I've drawn a blank. What's my line?
Maybe we do live in a fantasy. In our own little bubble. Just hanging out.
As if we're not completely down to earth. But just a bunch of dreamers?
No way. We're just like everyone else.
You know, average Joes.
Start dreaming big at visitcalifornia.co.uk.
What are you responsible for?
23 tons and 5 foot of rubber.
Keeping sticky fingers off these.
Tesla.
We all have responsibilities. At Wonga, ours is to provide responsible loans that can help you bridge the gap until payday. Simply choose how much you need and for how long. And if you pay it back early, you'll save money too. So visit wonga.com now to find out how we can help you. No hidden fees, representative 1509% APR. Wonga, credit for the real world.
Here I go out to sea again. The sunshine fills my head.
Mornings always seem to be that bit more wonderful after a good night's sleep. Which is why all our hotels come with luxurious king-size Hypnos beds. And a good night's sleep guaranteed wherever you are.
Wonderful.
Premier Inn. Wake up wonderful.
We'll look back at all the weekend's action in rugby tonight on BT Sport 2, tomorrow at 8. Saturday